folks, good evening to one and all, and welcome to round number 4, Sports and GT Masters Series, season number 2. As always, alongside me, the Hef himself, the voice of Western Province Motorsport, Frankie Yennis. Frankie, good evening to you.
Yes, Gary, good evening, and welcome to Sydney, Australia, to New South Wales, to Oran Park Raceway, where the temperature is 18 degrees. There is a slight chance of rain, only 7%. That probably won't happen. Sunny and clear skies and a light wind of only 3 kilometers an hour. Well, Mazda MX-5s. I'll tell you what, these boys are going to have a ton of fun out there in these cars. They used to LMPG Dolaras, P2 prototypes. They used to GTE cars. They used to GT cars. They are used to Formula 2s and the 2017 version of Indy cars. But tonight it's something completely different.
Yeah, these cars, the handling characteristics of them, the speed, the gear ratios, it's completely different to anything that the sports and GT guys are accustomed to. So completely different world that we enter tonight. Been a couple of very interesting sessions. Some of the guys said love it, some of the guys said hate it. To ride it on the limit, well, it's a very, very loose motor car. You literally feel like you're drifting and sliding all the time as you work your way around the circuit. But during the course of the evening, we'll give you some additional information on that. Let's see, everybody's gone out onto the circuit. They've done their one warm-up, and they have a lot of the guys, 17 of the 24 racing tonight, have put up a lap time. So Johan Ferry out there, black with the green monster colors. That's the colors that he loves. 1 minute 15.0. Now what we can tell you is the top 13 in the practice, 20-minute practice session, which we've just been watching, were all inside 1 minute 16. So the top 13 cars, Graham Stephen, as always, in his favorite colors, the creamy color with the blue inline. They're still on the front row of the grid at this stage. Willem Botha decides to prove me wrong. 1 minute 15.3 for Willem Botha. Johan Ferry will join him on the front row of the grid at this stage of the fight. And Graham Stephen gets bombed down there as Steve McCarthy says, hello gentlemen, let me come and join you as well. Graham Stephen putting up his second lap and once again gets himself up onto the front row of the grid.
Well, it's all chopping and changing once again. Johan Ferry goes back to the top with a 1:15.053. I'll tell you what, that is chopping and changing. The first 5, there is 0.5 of a second approximately between Johan Ferry, Willem Botha, Graham Stephen, Francois Hubert and Steve McCarthy at this point in time. So it's going to be pretty interesting stuff. 4 minutes and 55 seconds done, almost 5 minutes done out of the 10-minute qualifying session. And tonight it's not going to be a 50-minute race. It's shorter, it's 40 minutes for the guys out there, and 1 or 2 pretty tight pit stops. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how far they can push these little Mazda MX-5s before they need to make their pit stops.
Just outside of the top 5, Sean McCarthy, and on screen Andre Steenkamp. Mike Verrier jumps above them, and Dr. Mike goes on almost a 116 flat. A little bit further behind that, Gerald Moget, and he's on a 116.2. Also on a 116.2, the comeback kid, Robbie Teams. Willem Pienaar are just 2 tenths slower than that. Wayne Camage did pretty well in the pre-race session and finds himself in 12th position with Renier Hubert in there behind him, still inside of the 116s.
Yeah, then Leonardo Bakari with a 116.807. He is in 14th position. I love that pink color scheme. Look at the lights of the car, almost looks like there's eyes watching you. And then rounding off the top 15 is car number 3 with a 116.924, and that is Ian Riddle.
Oh, he's done a good couple of races with us already. The second of the Bakaris, Sandra Bakari, the first of the guys just outside the 116, but he's still on a flying lap, so very possible he'll get into the 116s. David Joubert, well, he must have had a bit of a tumble somewhere, because David Joubert will definitely be worth more than a 117.4. Herman Lazarus, welcome to the series, a 17.450. You'll probably find him in the mid-pack. He's coming up there. That's going up towards the start finish line. Let's see how far he can bump himself up. A 17.450. I have seen him do quicker than that. Wouldn't be surprised if he goes higher up. No, a 17.7. So he didn't get a clean lap in behind that. Colin Plitt, he's finished his run. He's already into the pit area. Uncle Cyril, he's in the pit area as well. And then Eugene Manouk, he's going to do that right-hander through the S-bend, run it right towards the outside of the circuit, to nice and late on that apex. Work your way through the gearbox. Will Eugene be able to get himself a little bit off the back end of the grid? Goes across the line. Well, he moves up one position, but still on the tail end of the field. Oh, Johan Engelbrecht also on a 17 dead, so not managing to get himself higher up the field at this stage of the fight. I see Willem Botha is still out on track. Let's see if Willem can. Well, he's on the front row of the grid. Johan Fourie is already into the pit area, so there's nothing more that he can do. I think he's just working his way back. Sway Joubert still out on circuit. He's just finished his flying lap as well. Davy Joubert, oh, he's going to go take that right-hander, and then that left, it looks like he's got connectivity. Oh, he's pushing hard. Connectivity problems as he works his way up the hill. He started that very tight. He'll have to feather the accelerator as he comes closer to the wall. Let's see, a 16.4 just outside of the top 10. Nope, and he decides it's not going to go any further than that. So interesting stuff that we've got here so far. 8 minutes 26, and well, for those of you that have just joined us, this is where we are tonight. It's round number 4 from Oran Park Raceway in the Mazda MX-5s. There you can see what Oran Park circuit looks like. Hardly any wind, clear skies, 7% chance of rain, 19 degrees, so not going to be a problem there. Frankly, the intel info that we got was that it's a probable two-stopper, a tight run on one, just a possibility. Will the Sandra Bakaris of this world pull a move? We'll have to see.
Well, yeah, that's what I mentioned earlier on, a very one or two very tight pit stop, so the guys are going to have to take it very easy. That's why I mentioned, let's see how far they can push these MX-5s before they duck and dive into pit lane. And only a 40-minute enduro race, and one can understand why. Remember, these Mazdas are not the quickest cars out there, but they're sure going to be a whole lot of fun for these guys to drive in and work their way around the Oran Park Raceway.
Well, the only man that's still out on circuit was Willem Botha. Everybody has completed their laps that they can do, but the computer is set for that 10-minute session. So we wait for the computer to close down the qualifier, and then we'll be able to have a look at the grid for today's race.
Well, Johan Fourie was mentioning early on that he had brake problem issues, and obviously he's done something dramatically to get his whole rig sorted out, because he is out there. Not only is he just out there, he and Willem Botha occupy the front row of the grid. As a matter of fact, Johan Fourie and Willem Botha lock out the front row of the grid. The Graham Stephen and Francois Joubert on the second row, Stephen McCarthy and Sway Joubert on the third row of the grid.
Yeah, and then it's Andre Steenkamp and Mike Verrier that got into the top 5, got bumped out of there. Sean McCarthy, the comeback kid, Robbie Teens, our international rider, Gerald Maget, and Davy Joubert rounding out the top echelon for us today.
Right, this is going to be a standing start, so there's going to be no pace car or safety car that leads them around Oran Park. So we'll have to see the moment those lights go off or the flag goes down, we will be underway, and will be a lot of wheel spinning as they get off the line. The brake lights are on, as you see there. Looking a bit further back, there is Graham Stephen, there is Sway Joubert, he's in that Oreo car. Sean McCarthy a little bit further down as the rest of the field begins to grid. They're all popping into their grid positions. Wayne Camage a bit further down with that red car with those two black lines through, so they're almost ready to go.
It will be a standing start, and probably going to find there's going to be chaos down into turn number 1. They've been sworn death and destruction if they do mess it up going down into turn number 1. Let's get a nice broad shot of that. And you're probably going to find there's going to be chaos going down into turn number 1. Let's hope that most of the guys can get through that very first corner. Lovely blimp shot. One for Willem Boerter, front row of the grid. Graham Stephen, Francois Hubert, Stephen McCarthy and Swayze Hubert on the third row of the grid. The lights go on, and Mike Verrier and Sean McCarthy just a little bit further back. Let's have a blimp shot as they go down, Frankie, to turn number 1.
Yeah, well, that is a pretty far view. Look at Graham Stephen. He's trying to sneak up there. They're trying to go through abreast into turn number 1. And, Graham Stephen's gone. Graham Stevens got touched there. Graham Stephen is completely out of it. The guys are going pretty wide coming out of turn 1. That left-hander going under the bridge as the field make their way into that right-hander into turn number 2. They are jostling for positions there. Fourie down into third place. Hubert is in second. Willem Boerter is the man that leads him into that right-hander. Willem Boerter busy making his way now over the bridge as they go into that slight right-hander here at Oran Park. Hubert is second, Fourie is third, Stephen McCarthy fourth, Swayze Hubert is fifth, and riding off the top half dozen in P6 is Andre Steenkamp. As the field make their way into that left-hander, still being led there by Boerter as Sean McCarthy makes his way through. Somebody just lost the track there for a moment, rejoining, getting a bit further down. But these MX-5s are right on each other's tails, and you can't afford to make a mistake like that. You're going to send yourself packing. A lot of off-track excursions there on the opening lap.
Well, pretty interesting stuff. Watching a race for the first time from that type of view. Let's go to the front end of the field. It's all about Francois Hubert in that second position. Willem Boerter leading them out. He had a lovely start. Johan Fourie holding on in that third position. That's the black car that you see just behind him. Then a little bit further down behind that group is a nice tight little battle that's going down. And it's going to happen all night long. It's going to be 2 pit stops, and I believe that you're going to find there's going to be more passing in this race than in most of the races we've seen today.
Well, I just watched Johan Fourie muscle his way through into that second position just ahead of Willem Boerter, with Stephen McCarthy sitting there in that fourth position, followed there by Swayze Hubert. Those are those first 5 as we look at that Sujin outfit there, the number 007 car in P4 of Stephen McCarthy, and he's got the Oreo car right behind him there in P5 of Swayze Hubert. Francois Hubert is the man that sits out there in P1. Right behind him it is Johan Fourie, followed there by Willem Boerter. Dawie Hubert making his way through, is right on the tail of Sean McCarthy as they race across the line into turn 1.
Well, the fastest lap on that lap was in fact Swayze Hubert, 15.999, 1,000ths of a second inside the 1 minute 16. That's not going to work. Heading straight towards the scene of the accident. And look how far that car bounced back. Let's hope that he can get that one back together. Dawie Hubert, in a very dangerous situation, comes straight back onto the track. And that will make some of the other drivers unhappy, coming back onto track and maybe affecting somebody else's race. But let's go and have a look up front, and it is Johan Fourie that's got himself up into that second position.
Yeah, and Johan Fourie is all over the back there of race leader Swayze Hubert. Hubert P1, Fourie P2, Boerter sits out there in P3. There's nothing between first, second and third as they make their way into that little right-left-hander. Down into that left-hander they go. That's heading towards the end of the lap. It is Francois Hubert in P1, Johan Fourie second. Stephen McCarthy is there in that fourth position. There goes Willem Boerter. He is in that third place as they race down towards turn number 1. Willem Boerter in that third position. Johan Fourie 1:15.495. So at the end of lap number 4, he is the quickest man out there on circuit, is Johan Fourie.
Well, we know he is very, very capable of working his way through the traffic. Willem Boerter, one of the smallest gaps out there. In fact, first, second and third. Look at that. That second position of Johan Fourie. That is where the gavel is right now. Johan Fourie all over the back of Francois Hubert. Johan Fourie likes to lead a race. He doesn't like to get stuck in the pack. He likes to try and set the pace up front. And he won't just sit there and make sure he stays ahead of Willem Botha. He's going to attack until he gets to the front. 0.27 of a second. That's about as close as you can get as they go through that right, the left-hander now to be a right up the hill, blind rise over the top of the rise, drifted out towards the outside, one gear down. Now you're going to try and go for a late apex to try and carry that speed through and not go up against the wall.
Right, that's another lap in the bag as the top three race across that start-finish line into turn number one. Hubert, Fourie and Botha. And now look at Willem Botha. Willem Botha is right on that back bumper there of Fourie, but Fourie in turn has pulled away from him now, and he is all over the back of François Hubert. There is absolutely nothing between, never mind those two, there's nothing between those three as Fourie dives up on the inside. Fourie looks up on the inside, the brakes discs are glowing, and Hubert could possibly lose 2 positions here. Oh, no, he doesn't. He hangs on to that second position, but Fourie is where he wants to be in P1 as they head over the bridge.
That long right-hander unweights itself onto the curb. Now touch the brakes and just lighten up the tail end, not go too far onto the curbstones. Work your way through that downhill and pick up the uphill. You can see it's a blind rise. You cannot see the apex from there. Now the right and then the left-hander, once again a blind rise. 4 of the corners on the circuit. In fact, that is the situation where you cannot see where the corner is going to end. So let's just have a look as they open up slightly. Let's just have a look at some of the incidents that have happened so far in this race. Let's just try and pick it up for you quickly.
Well, as we wait for those replays to come through, Johan Fourie is trying to get away there, but Botha is only 0.3 of a second behind Hubert, who in turn is only 0.5 of a second behind him. But there's a lovely fight going on for P4 and 5 between Stephen McCarthy and Swayze Hubert, and there's only 0.4 of a second between the two of them. We pick up a replay of David Hubert. This will be the one we just kept on going straight and hammers that tyre wall rather heavily, and that car rebounds from the tyre wall almost back onto the racetrack again. A replay at Mike Verrier. Oh, there's all sorts of chaos out there. I think Leonardo Baccario might have been one of them. The 9 car of Wayne Camage was the other one that was involved in that chaos involving Mike Verrier. Well, I'll tell you what, there's cars all over the place. That is just another look from Peter Hubert, who was also involved in that very same incident. So there was about 2, 3, 4 cars that was involved in that situation. So into that left-hander, that's the same situation. This time it's from the man that I just mentioned earlier on, Leonardo Baccario's car. As you see, chaos erupting there. I said Wayne Camage was involved in that one. It wasn't Camage, it was actually Peter Hubert that was involved in that one. But man, there was such a lot of smoke out there, and the cars look very much identical. Right, never mind that. Let's go and have a look at that fight out there for P1, 2 and 3. It's Johan Fourie is 0.4 of a second ahead of François Hubert, who in turn is 0.3 of a second ahead of Willem Botha. Then behind them, 0.2 of a second behind Willem Botha, Steve McCarthy, who's only 0.6 of a second ahead of the man in P5, namely Swayze Hubert in the Oreo MX5.
Well, there's battles going on right throughout the field, and I think what we need to do is go and have a look just a little bit further down. Looks like Swayze Hubert has got himself into a very tight little battle there. There's Swayze Hubert. Oh, he drifts that Oreo car completely sideways as he goes up the hill. He's in there behind the Cegine car of Steve McCarthy, and he's closing only half a second. Well, let's see if he's going to carry that speed through into the main straight. Yes, he does. He should be able to have a dive from here. 0.2 of a second, 0.21, 0.20, 0.18, getting closer and closer. Will there be enough? Ooh, how's that for closing the line? Where you going, young man? And around the outside with the Oreo car, but I think he's overcooked it. Oh, that's going to end up in tears.
That's going to end up very ugly. He went into that left-hander on that second, third line, and he went in too hot into that corner. And he has dumped it. He's right there with Sean McCarthy. He's Swayze Hubert. So he's lost a couple of positions. It shows that he's there in 6th position, just ahead of the man in P7. namely Sean McCarthy. However, Willem Botha 1 second behind race leader Johan Fourie as they go into that right-hander. They're going to pick up a couple of back markers here. Johan Fourie's got his work cut out to keep Francois Hubert behind, and Willem Botha is right on that back bumper there of a second place man, Francois Hubert.
Well, let's have a look from a driver's point of view. This is coming up the hill onto the front main. He is now on the front main. This is where the starting grid was. You stay right up against the wall and you work your way through the gearbox. Fourth gear, you'll probably just get to fifth. You'll see the color of the wall changes. Then it goes into the green section, and around about here, you feather the accelerator, get it into a straight line, and then climb on the brakes. The chances of doing what he did there, having had a good couple of laps on this track, that was utterly brilliant to be able to come through there. Down one gear, left-hand wheels are on that cement strip. Don't climb the curb on the right-hand side, it's very high. One gear change going through here now. This one is a little bit smoother on the entry, but it's very rough on the exit. Runs you right towards the outside. Blind rise, turn in before you see the apex of the corner. Clip that. Try, if you get it right, to stay on the gas like he does. Once again, a blind dip. You have to lift off and touch lightly on the brakes, otherwise you get over the curb stone on the left-hand side. Here you have to slow it up quite a bit, otherwise it drifts right outside to the outside like that. That is the maximum that Willem Botha is doing. Once again, blind rise, pick your line before you get there, and you're back to the last corner. Look at that, going for a late apex, climb on the gas as early as possible, and off you go back up the start finish. That's what a lap looks like on this circuit. Looks like Graham Stephen has had a bit of an off.
Now watch out here for Graham Stephen. We'll keep an eye there on what happened to Graham Stephen as we have a look and see what happened out there. Obviously had some kind of an issue with his rig, so we're there with Willem Botha once again. So now we can have a look, see what happened to Graham Stephen. Chasing down, bombarding in there, and picking up the 41 car. I think that's Gerald Maget. That is indeed Gerald Maget. That Graham Stephen climbs right over Gerald Maget in that Gulf oil colored car, and he had a view of the bottom end of Graham Stephen's MX-5.
Oh, maybe he broke the computer in the car, and that's why we couldn't see the actual shot itself.
But Gary, sorry, this is what I wanted to see. Luke has gone right back into that second position again, has Willem Botha. Botha was on the case of Fourie. He lost it in there, and he dropped down into third, but he's back into that second position again. So Robbie Teague sits out there in a P9. He's got Renier Hubert right there ahead of him. Does Robbie Teague, does he look up on the inside of Renier Hubert? He's right there, he wants to have a go. Robbie Teague is busy carving his way through from 9th position in car number 14.
So tantalizing to have all of those cars there in front of you within fighting distance. And well, he's lost a bit of ground coming out there now, and I don't think that is going to be a gap that he's going to close very easily at all, because he's now completely out of the slipstream.
Yeah, well, he had one of those lap cars that he'd just gone past. There you see Renier Hubert and Sways just in front of him. Almost Robbie Teague gets tagged. Did he get tagged there by that back marker? I think that back marker might just have taken him out, or otherwise he just lost it all on his own. Let's have a look-see. Robbie Teague's coming through. Yes, that back marker accidentally took him out going into that left-hander.
Well, that's exactly what he didn't need there whatsoever. Look at this, Robbie Teague, 0.6 of a second behind the recovery, Graham Stephen. And, well, look, Johan Fourie from Willem Botha, Francois Hubert and Stephen McCarthy, less than 10 seconds between them up front. Renier Hubert very close onto the back of Sways Hubert. Robbie Teague very close onto the back of Graham Stevens. So numerous different incidents all around the circuit right now.
Well, Robbie Teague's out there in that Duracell battery sponsored car, and right behind him is the number 4 car of Wayne Camage. Oh, Camage running very high, running very wide there. As they chase into the pits goes Graham Stephen. Graham Stephen making his way into the pit. So 14 minutes into this race, And Sway Schubert is also making his way down pit lane in the Oreo MX-5. So 14, 15 minutes into this one, and the guys already beginning to make their pit stops.
Well, that's the first of the big hitters that have come in. So let's look at the time, 14:52. Let's say, put it 15 minutes, that makes it 30 minutes. So that is a genuine two-stopper that you were looking at there as they came into the pits. It looks like Ian Riddle is getting himself into a big dice once again, and that is with Sandra Bakari.
Yeah, Ian Riddle, and he's only 0.6 of a second behind Bakari. That's got that NGK spark plug logo as they head over the bridge. A replay here with Ian Riddle. You see them just coming into view there. And Colin Plitt, not too sure exactly what happened out there with Colin Plitt. You just see the cars in the background making their way through. Colin Plitt, one of the guys, getting it slightly sideways there. Ian Riddle still sitting there behind Sandro Bakari. 0.8 of a second between Bakari in P12 and Riddle there in P13.
Well, the computer shows that Colin Plitt had a major incident, but unfortunately we do not see that one. So probably you're going to find that is computer problems that he has there, and let's hope that does not cost Colin Plitt in a big way. Ian Riddle on screen, and oops, the 4 car has gone off just in front of them.
Yeah, that's Wayne Camage that had a bit of an off there just ahead of the combination of Riddle and Bakari. So back to the man that sits out there in P1, 1.8 seconds ahead of second place man Willem Botha, is race leader Johan Fourie. After Botha took that second place back from François Hubert, he is now 4.9 seconds ahead of Hubert. That is in that third position. Here goes Johan Fourie. Here comes second place man, the Red Bull Racing MX-5 of Botha. Here comes a 304 in P3 of François Hubert. Right behind him is Stephen McCarthy and Andre Steenkamp busy making his way through. Here comes Sean McCarthy towards us. And then we've got this fight there between Renier Hubert and Davy Hubert. Those are those two cars you see in picture there in a P7 and 8 making their way into the left hand. And the Batmobile has left the circuit. That is Andre Steenkamp as he makes his way back onto the track underneath the Yokohama Bridge.
Yeah, Andre Steenkamp at the last race also had a couple of offs that cost him pretty dearly. His lap pace was good, but maybe pushing it just a little bit too hard. 5 seconds further back, there he comes. The comeback kid, that is Robbie Teens. Nice to see Robbie out there on circuit. Charles Hubert is in that 10th position, just in there behind Charles Hubert. Ian Riddle with Sandra Bakari all over the back of him. And then the next one through there is Wayne Camage.
Well, we've got a new leader, according to us. I think they're beginning to make their pit stops, Gary. I think the front boys are beginning to make their pit stops, or they have made their pit stops, because the computer showed Johan Fourie down in third place. It could be an internet connection problem. And if that's the case, then it showed Fourie all the way down in P3, 4, but it shows him back in P1. So as far as Fourie's concerned, all is well.
Well, yeah, a number of you guys having connectivity problems at this stage of the fight. So up front, it is that man, Johan Fourie. Nobody in the top echelons has gone into the pit so far. It's only showing Johan Engelbach and Gerald Maget that has done pit stops, and nobody else is showing us that. So the cars that we saw going in, they have not actually registered those pit stops on our leaderboard at all. Johan Fourie leading out from Willem Botha. Oh, pushing it hard, Willem Botha, as he went there off track. Let's see what that looked like from inside the car. Over the blind rise, just a little bit too hard. Oh, so calm and collected. Just feathered the accelerator, picked up the line very, very neatly, and got it back to where he wanted to be on the black stuff.
Well, that was some great driving there by Willem Botha, as we see Muget in the 41 car make his way out of the pits. That is Gerald Muget. So Willem Botha still sitting out there in that second position, but he is 2.7 seconds behind Johan Fourie. That's still sitting out there in P1. Sandu Bakari all the way down in 12th place, and he's still having that fight there with the Ian Riddle.
It hasn't
For P11, they are still going one-on-one as they get past one of the slower cars, and that fight's been going on just out of the top 10 between Riddle and Bakari for P11 and 12.
A little bit further back, yet another dice at Swayze Bear with Willem Pienaar and Colin Plitt, and then they've got one or two slow markers just in front of them as well. And then, wow, look at that, Herman Lazarus. Welcome to the crew, up in 14th position. Lovely drive by Herman.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, that's a fight to keep an eye on, because they're all over the place there. That is Swayze Bear just ahead of him. You see the Castrol MX-5 of Willem Pienaar. So these guys, oh, there's a car that just veered off to the left. Somebody just veered. I think that is Graham Stephen. I think that might have been Graham Stephen. I just picked up that color scheme. It looked like it was Graham Stephen. No, it wasn't Graham Stephen. It was Peter Hubert. There you just saw Graham Stephen go through your picture there. But man, it's chaos out here in these MX-5s. You've got to keep your wits about you.
You've got to try and find the track. No, you're going the wrong way. You've got to go the other way. You spun around so many times. Oh, he did get it right. It was in the right direction. It's a different camera shot. My apologies for that.
That's coming out the Yokohama Bridge.
Yep, that's a different camera shot there. So he gets it back out on circuit again.
Well, it's all happening out there. Look at these guys going one-on-one, and Willem Pienaar is making a move there as he got through. Swayze Bear coming through as well, and they're all going one-on-one there with Herman Lazarus. That little fight is raging on. So Pienaar and Swayze Bear has got through there on Lazarus. Lazarus been dropped down into that 6th position, and here comes Graham Stephen. Man, he sits there in P17 just behind Lazarus, and that's a lovely fight going on out there. That's the Oreo MX-5 of Swayze Bear making his way under the Yokohama Bridge. Look at those disc brakes glowing there of Swayze Bear's MX-5. Willem Pienaar is just there ahead of him. Behind him is Graham Stephen coming into picture, but we go a bit further up and we see Davy Hubert making his move. Well, not quite yet. It's only about 6/10 of a second behind the man ahead of him, and that is Renier Hubert.
Wow, I tell you, it gets no better than this, as he makes a slight mistake, and that's going to cost him a position side by side as they go down towards turn number 1. So let's have a look at the positions gained and positions lost, because that is always something that's pretty interesting to look at if we can just pick that up. Well, first of all, let's have a look at the top speeds. Who's getting the best out of these motor cars? 190, I see a 194 from Robbie Teens.
195 from Davy Hubert.
Oh, somehow that's now getting a very good pace coming out of the last corner up onto the front main, or just braking very late. Let's have a look at another interesting thing. Let's have a look at the off tracks that the guys have had. Look at that, 3-5, 3-2. Stephen McCarthy, as always, crystal clean. In fact, the only driver not to have any off tracks at this stage of the fight.
Peter Hubert has had 9 of them, so he's had his fair share. As we look at the man in P7, namely Davy Hubert, he's got Renier Hubert there behind him, and that was the fight that we saw earlier on, and he's now eventually got his nose there ahead of Renier Hubert. But back to the man up front, Johan Fourie, sitting out there in P1, going over that bridge and swinging that Monster Energy Mazda MX-5 into that right-hander, and he has got a fair lead there over the Red Bull Racing MX-5 of Willem Botha. That's in that 2nd position. As a matter of fact, he's 3.1 seconds ahead there of Botha. That is in that 2nd place. Now, these guys have done 24 minutes already, so surely those Mazdas are getting a bit thirsty out there. Francois Hubert sitting out there in that 4th place. He's got a back marker there just ahead of him as he goes into that left-hander, taking him onto the home straight. That's the 304 car of Francois Hubert. It's sitting out there in that 3rd position. Stephen McCarthy sitting there in that 4th place in the Sujin Mazda MX-5. He's also got a slower car just ahead of him, a back marker that he's busy putting a lap on. And rounding off the top 5, the other Sujin outfit of Sean McCarthy.
Not that far behind him, coming up the hill into the front main, that's Darby Hubert. All over the back of him is Renier Hubert. They haven't given up on that one. Andre Steenkamp coming out into the straight with Robbie Teens right in there behind him. And Charles Hubert, the next man, on the same lap, on the same piece of straight, rounding out the top 10.
Yeah, Charles Hubert. Sandro Bakari will be the next man behind him. Charles there in P10. Sandro will be in 11th position. As a matter of fact, Charles Hubert is probably the biggest mover. It showed at one stage that he had made 15. He made up 15 positions. Did Charles Hubert. There's the man in P11, the NGK Sparkplug MX-5 entry of Sandro Bakari, and he sits there in 11th position, just ahead of car number 4 sitting out there in P12, namely Wayne Camage.
Wayne's had a pretty decent run up until now, and well, he's actually getting better and better every time we have a race. You see Wayne Camage going slightly, but surely a little bit further up on the comeback trail once again. Graham Stephen had all been gone for a little bit earlier on. He, like Johan Ferrari, always finds a way to get back towards the front end of the field, and he's now ahead. He's 10 positions down. Amman Lazarus, having had a disastrous run, just tried a little bit too hard with the qualifying session. He's found himself 6 positions up, so from 20th out of a 24 car grid, going up 6 positions, looking very, very good at this stage of the fight.
Yeah, not bad for a man that's making his debut in the Sports and GT Master Series. Finds himself in the top 15 in P14, ahead of the Oreo outfit, car number 22 in P15, and that will be Sway Hubert. So, what has happened here to Johan Ferrari? Johan Ferrari in the pits. Johan Ferrari making his way out the pits already.
Up there on the last, looks like Johan Ferrari has had a bit of an off as well. Oh, that's just touching the wheels on the outside. Now you got to get out the way before anybody else rocks up, and he just decided let's rather exit and go straight to the pits. So that man up front this time around is now Willem Botha.
He's the man up front with the Red Bull Racing MX-5. But remember, Botha and Francois Hubert, Sean McCarthy, and those boys have to pit as Johan Ferrari finds himself there in that 6th place. But Willem Botha will try and get enough lead on Francois and Steven to make a good pit and come out somewhere in that top 3 as he makes his way into that right-hander. I'll tell you what, this Oran Park is a very, very tricky circuit. There's a lot of blind risers out there. So Botha sits out there in P1. Francois Hubert is there in that 2nd position. Here comes Francois Hubert in that 2nd place, and Stephen McCarthy sitting out there in that 3rd position. That is your top 3. Brother Sean McCarthy is in that 4th position in car number 2. So the 2 Suzine cars sit out there in P3 and 4 at this point in time. Here comes Stephen McCarthy making his way into that left-hander. Andre Steenkamp in the Batmobile in car number 46. Sitting a little bit further down. As a matter of fact, we're looking at Willem Botha making his way into pit lane.
Well, there's a 2nd car that's coming there. We'll try and pick up who that 2nd car was. I think it could be Eugene Manouk that came there into the pits as well. Yep, there you see him coming through there, Willem Botha. Look how slow it looks when you come up the pit lane. And there you see the McCarthy car goes past as he comes out of the pit lane. So Stephen and Sean McCarthy passed of Willem Botha as he gets back out on circuit.
Well, there's a lovely fight there for P7 and 8 I see there between Johan Ferrari and Andre Steenkamp. There goes Robbie Teens. He sits there in P9 just behind them all. That is Ferrari, Steenkamp and Teens that's making their way into that left-hander under the Yokohama Tire Bridge. There you see them go into the right-hander, all 3 of them. Ferrari, Steenkamp and Teens into the right-hander here in Oran Park. I tell you what, you've got to choose the right line here. There are plenty of tracks here at Oran Park. You go the wrong way, you'll end up somewhere else.
And pick a track.
As they head over the the bridge and into that right-hander.
So Robbie Teams, you can see those two cars in front of him. That is Andre Steenkamp and Johan Fourie. But keep in mind that Johan Fourie has already been into the pits. And who's going into the pits?
Francois Joubert.
Francois Joubert. Stephen McCarthy goes to the lead. Where is Sean McCarthy? There he goes past the start-finish line. So he's going to move up a position. And then you've got Willem Botha that's going straight through as well. There's Willem. So as Francois Joubert sits in the pits, the next one to come along is going to be Davy Joubert. Davy Joubert is going to go past him as well. And that's just going to take him further and further. Johan Fourie, he is the lead car now that has done a pit stop. Oh, so hard into that left-hander, which follows into that second left-hander through underneath the bridge. Probably one of the most difficult pieces of the track, coming from top speed, having to take the first corner, then as soon as you get it sort of straightened out, climb on the brakes. The problem is, if you don't get it straightened out, you cannot stop quick enough, and you're going to go flying into the barrier. And we've seen replays of more than one person that has been in that situation already. Herman Lazarus has gone into the pits, so Johan Fourie, having been in and out of the pits, well, he's going to be making up positions from here on out.
Well, if you look at Fourie, Steenkamp and Teens, that's the three cars that you see there. The gaps were virtually nothing between the three of them. It's now began to open up a bit there between Fourie, Steenkamp and that man Robbie Teens in the Duracell MX-5 that sits there in that 8th position. Sander Bakari, well, he's fancying a chance to have a go at the man ahead of him, Graham Stephen, as they make their way through that right-hander and then into that blind left-hander rise, which will take you into another left-hander there. There you see the grid positions, and that will take you to the end of the lap as Bakari decides it's my time to dive into pit lane.
The pit lane he goes. So right now that man in the Sujin car is in second position, and well, it's Stephen McCarthy and Sean McCarthy. When last, I can't remember when last we've seen them in first and second positions. So the McCarthy boys that both in the top 5 in the previous season of Sports and GT Masters, now leading out this race first and second. The gap back to Willem Botha, not enough as far as they're concerned, because they're pretty much in the same shot. There he is, Willem Botha, right in there behind him. And Willem, let's have a look at what he can see. There he can see the first of the Sujin cars right in front of him, right up against the wall as he works his way down the front main and into the pits. Let's have a look at what that pit lane looks like. Oh, it's so tight. Now you've got to keep it under 60 kilometers an hour. It feels like forever. It's just live one run up into the pit lane. Look how he's dropping down to 6th position already. Andre Steenkamp 3 seconds, 2 seconds, 1 second. Andre Steenkamp comes past. Robbie Teams, the next one to come through. Robbie Teams goes past. He hasn't even stopped yet. Charles Joubert 13 seconds further back. He'll fancy his chances to get past as well. Now you stop and you sit and you wait and you wait. Graham Stevens coming closer as well. Look at that. It's Francois Joubert that's gone past. You drop another position. Graham Stevens goes past. Now you only get out of the pits and you find yourself in 11th position. It's nightmare stuff to go into the pits. Up front, it's still the McCarthy boys.
Yeah, but they've changed positions around there. Stephen and Sean McCarthy sitting out there in P1 and P2. Davy Joubert is in that 3rd place, but he's almost 6 seconds behind the two McCarthys. As we watch 2nd place man Sean McCarthy make his way into the left-hander. Is he going to go into pit lane? Well, we don't know, because there comes Johan Fourie. Johan Fourie coming over that rise. I'll tell you what, McCarthy has not gone into pits. As a matter of fact, Stephen McCarthy has gone into the pits, and he was the leader, Stephen McCarthy, and he finds himself now in pit lane, which means brother Sean McCarthy sits out there in P1.
And Johan Fourie is busy making up positions, as that was a tail view from Johan Fourie. Johan Fourie having now passed Andre Steenkamp, Robbie Teams, Stephen McCarthy, because of the fact that he did the early pit stop. So still in front of him is Sean McCarthy and Davy Joubert. So they've done a very good race strategy to date. Sean McCarthy, Davy Joubert from Johan Fourie. And it's almost 10 seconds that Johan Fourie finds himself behind Sean McCarthy if you add those lap times, the gaps, should I say, together.
Well, Johan Fourie won the opening round. Willem Botha won the second round and the third round. We are almost 35 minutes into this one. So we've got just over 5 minutes to go. Sean McCarthy sits up then. P1, Davio Bear second. Johan Fourie third. And then that man in P4, Andre Steenkamp in that Batmobile. He's in the top 5 in that 4th position. And right there behind him, in P5, only 9/10 of a second behind him, is a Duracell car of Robbie Teams.
Yeah, that comeback kid is right there where he wants to be, in the top 5. He's got 7 seconds on Francois Joubert, who has got 500 meters between himself and Stephen McCarthy. Stephen will be disappointed to have dropped down that far. Look how he's closing. He's down to 8/10 of a second. Robbie Teams on the back of Andre Steenkamp. Steenkamp has got very little chance with 7 seconds gap between himself and Johan Fourie that's driving away from him, and only 1.5 minutes. So all that man, Andre Steenkamp, the back end very loose as he goes in there. He's feeling the pressure. Robbie Teams is starting to turn the wick up. He wants to get that 3rd position.
Yeah, he wants a top 3. Does Teams. He's only 7/10 of a second behind Steenkamp in that 3rd position as they race up and over the top of that bridge into that right-hander. They go a bit of a blimp on the gas and then turn into that very tight right left-hander. So Robbie Teams is on the move. This is now where Oran Park Raceway gets technical, especially this right-hander coming up now. It's a complete off-camber blind rise, and you got to place your car at exactly the right position and have all the trust and the faith in your car that you're going to come out the other side on track.
Mike Verrier has done it to the boys again. He's made it marginal. He's made it nominal. Sean McCarthy, with less than a minute to go, what are we on, 36 out of 40?
36.
Has gone into the pit lane, and Teams has gone into the pit lane as well. So guess who's gone to the front of the pack?
Yeah, Johan Fourie is back in P1 again. And he's 8 seconds ahead there of Andre Steenkamp in that 2nd position. And he is 6.4 seconds ahead of Francois Joubert, that's out there in that 3rd position. So with 37 minutes gone and only 3 minutes left to go, with a 9.8, almost a 10-second lead on Andre Steenkamp that finds himself in 2nd place. Barring a mistake, I think Fourie has got this one in the bag.
Yep, he's not at the top of the log at the moment, so I think he's down in 2nd or 3rd position. He'll need that one. Let's go down to Stephen McCarthy. Stephen McCarthy in that 4th position with Willem Botha all over his back bumper. So Willem has closed up pretty neatly there with the stop and goes for the fuel, and Willem Botha trying to make a plan to get himself into that 4th place. I don't think that he can do much more than that, barring unforeseen circumstances up front. But that is a pretty good dice that you've got just outside of that grouping, just about to go into that complex that you just saw the other 2 cars going into. And just outside of the top 5 is Sean McCarthy.
Well, that's a lovely fight there for 4 and 5 there between Stephen McCarthy and that man Willem Botha. That's the one that Gary's picking up on. That's that fight for 4th position with 38 minutes and 10 seconds gone. That fight is still on there for that 4th place, but it's still on for 2nd and 3rd. Joubert in 2nd, Steenkamp in 3rd. There's only 1.1 seconds behind him as we look at this fight going on here between Stephen McCarthy and Willem Botha for that 4th position.
Well, there's Andre Steenkamp, and he's got a 2-second gap to the car in front of him. So he must have had a little bit of an off track with that last situation that they were so close to one another, and that has now got him out of a possibility of getting with 1 minute and 10 seconds to go in the race. I don't believe he's going to go any further forward in that race.
Yeah, here we go back to P4 and 5. Stephen McCarthy, Willem Botha, 1/10 of a second, 2/10 of a second between the two of them. As for Reese probably going around to start his final lap, but that fight is not done yet. Yes, oh, he almost rubs the wall there. Does Botha. Man, I'll tell you what, that is touch and go. They're side by side racing down to that left-hander. Botha's right up against the pit wall. Will he try and slingshot around? Yes, he's going to, but he mustn't go in too hot. He mustn't go in too hot. That is perfect timings there by Willem Botha, who moves up now into that fourth position.
Well, it's probably on the last lap. It's 39 minutes and 40 seconds, so he knows he's just got a series of corners to go through. And when he comes around again, it's all said and done. Let's have a quick look at that. Johan Fourie, and this is probably with 8 seconds to go. Yep, this is the last time Johan Fourie will come up the hill. Will take that last corner, does Johan Fourie, and he will be looking good.
Yeah, Fourie will come home in P1. 40 minutes is up. Fourie winds it from side to side. Fourie wins, and that makes it 2 wins out of 4 races for Johan Fourie. Francois Hubert will come home in that second place. Well done to him. And Botha, well, he got his nose ahead there of McCarthy. And Botha, after fighting his way through, ends up there in that third position.
Yeah, in that third position, there's Willem Botha as he comes across the line. And then in behind Willem Botha is Stephen McCarthy. I think you'll be pretty happy with that one. Behind Stephen McCarthy comes his brother Sean, just outside of the top 5. And then Andre Steenkamp.
Yeah, Davy Hubert coming through as well in that 7th position. And here comes Robbie Teings in that 14 car coming through. But Davy Hubert has shown, Davy Hubert is going into pit lane. So Davy will be losing out positions. And here comes the NGK Spark Plug car of Sandro Bakari.
Yep, and Sandro's done a lovely job. Just in there behind him is a Charles Hubert. Wayne Camage just outside of the top 10 coming up the hill. He was 11 seconds further back with the number 4 car, and then next in through behind him will be Renier Hubert. There he comes up the hill. Is Renier Hubert, and not far behind him. Well, there the guys are busy slowing down. So
I think all the other guys.
It doesn't get.
I think all the other guys are at least 1 lap down.
Yeah, no doubt about it. It's possible that Davy Hubert did run out of fuel there.
Yes.
There's your end results.
Yeah. Gavin, one of our producers here, Gavin Fleming, said probably ran out of fuel, and I have to agree 100% with him. So
that's the qualifying.
Well, that's the qualifying that we got there. That's where they qualified. And let's see if we can get the race results. There we go. Johan Fourie P1, Francois Hubert P2, Willem Botha P3, and that is your podium. Fourie, Hubert, and Botha.
Well, I tell you what, it couldn't get much closer than that. Fourie, Hubert, Botha, the 2 McCarthys once again in the top 5. The man in the Batmobile, Andre Steenkamp, coming through there in that 6th position. Robbie Teings, Sandra McCarthy, Charles Hubert, and then Wayne Camage rounding out the top 10. Still in with the points, remember, it goes all the way down. Davy Hubert from Renier Hubert, Graham Stephen, that will do his championship hopes no good whatsoever.
No, lap 1, turn 1 for Graham Stephen, and he went right off on the outside, and he was having a go there at that lead, and all of a sudden going into turn 1, that left-hander, Stephen got spat out to the right-hand side, found himself there in the dirt box, and had to fight back from there, and it was a massive mountain he had to climb. And sadly there for Graham, finishing out of the top 12, out the top dozen, finishing there in that 13th position.
Swayze Hubert, Pierre Hubert, Ian Riddle, Colin Plitt, and Willem Pienaar rounding out the 18 that finished this race. A brilliant race it was. Round 4, Oran Park Raceway, Mazda MX-5. Where are we going to be next week? Well, we've got no idea. We don't get told before the time. And that will probably be revealed around about Sunday morning, when the message will come up and say, boys, Wednesday's race day. This is where we're going to be. There will be a practice tonight, and Sunday evening, after all is said and done, the guys will climb onto the whatever the new car is on the new circuit it's going to be. and that will bring us back to you at the same time next week, Wednesday.
Well, 4 races, 2 winners. Fourie won heat round 1 and round 4. Botha won round 2 and 3. So 4 races and only 2 winners so far between Johan Fourie and Willem Botha. The question is, next week, wherever we may be, will it be Botha, will it be Fourie, or will it be somebody else? Stick around and you'll find out next week, Wednesday.
Good night to you, one and all.
Bye-bye, everyone.